Hello.
Hello. Good day, everyone. Welcome back to Connecting Conversations podcast. Hope you are chiming in from wherever you are and you're excited for our discussion today. As you can see, we're back, um, ready to tackle another
Yes,
conversation.
we are. I feel like when people say that we're back, it's like we didn't really go anywhere either.
No, we didn't, but we just showed up again, together, just us two, having another conversation.
I really got to say that I think every time we've done this conversation together, it's been really,
Mhm.
really good. It's really great to take stock of, I think, the kind of different landmarks that we kind of reach or checkpoints that
Mm,
we reach in the development of
mm,
what Cohesia Connect is doing, what Connecting Conversations has been doing. Like, it's been a great couple of months. I think, like, I think it's really important. I think no matter what you're doing, it's taking opportunity to just stop, sit back, and reflect.
yeah.
Because most of us, maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of people seem to feel like they're so busy getting on to the next thing. Especially when
Mm,
you're growing something like from the bottom up, just like what we're doing. And I imagine there's lots of
yeah.
other startups or other people doing projects that when you
Mm,
are the one that's the sole investor of building, doing all the groundwork, sowing all the
yeah.
seeds in, networking across, there's no like 9 to 5 element of it.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
important to like, actually, let's take a step back and see what we've achieved. Where have we come from where we started? And I think it's always pleasantly surprising and encouraging. I
Mm,
think it gives kind of like, fuel to keep going for the next leg.
yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
I think so. I think, and it kind of helps us to stay accountable as well, in my opinion. It gives us that extra leg of motivation, that encouragement.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, I think it's just a great opportunity to kind of sit back and look at the successes, but also look at probably the gaps that we've encountered and
yeah,
perhaps what we can do better and where we can go. And I think it just helps to fuel our vision and purpose for what we want to do as a business and kind of, be here in the long run and create
mhm,
sustainable change, which is what we're here for. So yeah, we're
exactly.
not going anywhere. We're just continuing to evolve. That's my word for this year,
I love
evolve.
that.
So we're doing that with Cohesia Connect and this podcast.
And I think it's so great. I'm so happy. Like when we decided to do this conversation and do a reflections moment, is I had to then sit and think about, so what are those things? And when I look back, we think
Mm,
about, we've definitely recorded over 20 episodes on a podcast. We never knew that would be the case.
yeah.
I think I hear statistically, and don't quote me on it, but statistically,
Mhm.
a lot of podcasts don't get past their 7th episode. We've absolutely exceeded that. And I think we never
Wow.
thought about it when we got onto doing this, realizing that creating a platform for honest and safe space conversations about
Mm,
really purpose driven things that are
yeah.
impacting not just people's professional lives, which is kind of the remit that we involve ourselves in,
Hmm.
but it's impacting like actual individual psychology, people's personal
Yeah.
experience, people's identity, processes, because we
Mm.
spend so much time at work or building things outside of this life, but we never really take stock of how much that is really inputting the kind
Okay.
of like
Yeah.
internal of the people involved. And I think that's
Mm.
just been an incredible journey thinking about that. And also,
Yeah.
like, you mentioned that we're purpose driven. I feel really chuffed about the fact that we've been able to do some incredible projects over the last couple of months. I feel like maybe you
We
should talk
have.
about some of the stuff that we've been doing
Oh,
so far. That would be so fun.
um, yeah, I think as you was talking, I was just kind of thinking about like little things as well that perhaps we haven't actually discussed or talk about much. Um, but I think one of the biggest projects that we've worked on was with Motorsport UK and a
Yeah.
team of engineers within the motorsport industry. And it was headlined by Jai Campbell, who we actually had on our podcast
Yeah, yeah, we have.
very, very early on. So it was great to kind of collaborate with them and work with them to put together a program in the hopes of educating and inspiring young people, but also people from underrepresented backgrounds. So that was really good, and we actually created the program. We brainstormed what that would be. We got all the materials required for it. I'll put a little video in the episode so people can see and watch that once
Yeah.
again. But I think it was just really good to kind of be in that space, not just
Mm,
in the program, but actually delivering that on site with the young people, getting the feedback, seeing their faces light up, hearing the conversations that they were having,
mm, mm.
missions were. I think for me, just being in that moment, I
Yeah.
felt so humbled and so grateful that I even had the opportunity to do that, but more so to do that representing Cohesia Connect. What were your thoughts? You actually went before me, so I was
I
one of
did. I did. And I think this was
the
interesting.
start.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think, like you said, there were so many different stages to that project, wasn't there?
Mm,
There was the element of like we were in conversations with this amazing group of engineers. I mean, that's not even anywhere near kind of our remit of work, but it opened up a whole new world for us. And I loved that
mm,
enriching experience altogether. And I think that's one of the first things that I think I really loved about even that project was how many doors being in a startup of our own was opening in industries that
mm,
if we were to stay, just in our professional world and just stuck to kind of like a 9 to 5,
mm.
type of job, we wouldn't really have that kind of exposure and the
Yeah.
opportunity to learn. Like my mind, even though we never lost who we were as the D&I specialists, as part of
Mm-hmm.
the team of the project, but being exposed to actually a whole world of motorsport,
Mm,
how exclusive it is, how limited it is in terms of its diversity, and just
mm,
inspired to see people who are trying to knock down those walls and come alongside them. I don't think that's always an opportunity that you get always when you're
mm.
not doing something like what we're doing. And I just appreciated just how enriching that I had an opportunity to learn something new and meet a whole load of different people and just connect, which is what
Yeah.
we're doing. I know we say it's in the name and perhaps it might be a bit cliche, but it's so true. I think there's such
Yeah.
magic in that connection because I know that from this point, if any other kind of project comes on, these faces have become so great when you work together, you build
Mm-hmm.
something together, even though we come from very different worlds and areas of expertise, just how much like that connection that was built during that working interaction together as a
Yeah.
teammate, just,
Mm.
that's a long-term thing now. I won't have to
Yeah.
think twice about if I was to think about anything to do with engineering or motorsport. We've got a pool of people that we care about so dearly. It's just been amazing,
Yeah.
not just getting to know their expertise, but getting to the people behind that has been incredible.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the next bit was just like, I love working with you. I wouldn't be here unless we didn't. It's what we were capable of. This was our first baby project in terms
Yeah.
of the gig that we had since starting Cohesia Connect. And it hit all the boxes. We're very passionate
Yeah.
about being purpose driven, impact driven, community, and
Mm.
underrepresentation. How can we help to elevate, and
Yeah.
create some balance and an equilibrium in those realms? And in
Mm.
every way, it met that. And I felt, like you said, quite humbled by the fact that this was given to us as an
Yeah.
opportunity. I don't know how fortunate others who are on their journey, especially if they've got kind of purpose driven,
Mm.
startups that they're trying to do or projects, if they, how often or how soon they are able to get on to doing what they really want to do. Because, there's sometimes a
Yeah.
lot of grunt work and I need
Yeah.
to like build what I'm doing, establish who we are on those fronts, but to actually be, and it was just in the heart of it so much. And
Mm.
with an organization like UK Motorsport as well, that was such an incredible privilege, I think. Um,
Yeah.
it showed me also about like how much we really can't give up because we started those conversations from last year summer and it
Yeah.
only materialized in delivery in kind of May. And I
Yeah.
think that really spoke
Patience
about
is.
endurance is a
Mm.
different kind of like, you know,
Mm.
trait that we need to acquire if you don't have it already.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, it all comes down to connection and network. And I think that's what allowed us to even get to that point. And, we've been quite, like you said, fortunate in meeting these people, getting introduced to
Yeah.
these different faces within sport, within motorsport. And it's just been really great to engage with them and network with them. I knew Jai from, years ago, and I never thought that, you
Right.
know, this time would come around where we actually work
Mm,
together. So I think for anyone out there, I think it really starts with that connection building, that getting to know people, networking, because you just don't know who can give you the baton to go on and take the lead with something
right.
else, or build something else, or do something. And I think for us, we've been lucky to be around great people who are willing and, very happy to support us and get us to where we want to go.
Yeah, I love that.
So
Let's talk about
yeah.
the podcast has been, I think, I wouldn't say the underdog, but the surprise little baby that's just seemed to be blossoming in such a lovely way.
Mm,
I feel like we've had some
mm-hmm.
incredible people on our platform and conversations. Tell me about so far, maybe some of the conversations that you've hosted on our platform that have really stood out for you and why.
Oh, there are so many. They really are. But the two that comes to mind, and not to say the others were less than or not or anything like that. It's not to prioritize any one of the other, but I think in regards to how the conversation developed and the stuff, the things that we talked about were quite mind blowing in a sense, and it allowed me to really think. So I think the
Mm,
first, I'll take two. Um, and the first one is one that we host collectively, and that was around race week,
mm,
when we got Deborah and Natasha on to talk
yeah,
about their experiences growing up in South Africa, and the dynamics that were happening in South Africa when they were being raised, but also the colorism and the racism that they experience, even looking visibly white. So I think from that conversation, it allowed me to look at race in a very different way,
mm,
and change my perspective as to what society deem as being racist, but also what society has defined racist to be. And we think a lot about racism in terms of white and black issues,
yeah,
mainly the white um, impacting black people, but there are so many layers within that
yeah,
we perhaps don't really delve into as much, or don't bring to the forefront, which does cause a lot of pain, anger, and hurt, especially when you then go into places where you feel that you should be a part of a one community, but because you don't quite look like that community, you become excluded, and then you equally don't fit in another community that perhaps you look more like, and still get excluded because they know your background. So it was just a very interesting to hear their stories
yeah.
and move into the UK and what that experience was like for them.
Mm,
Um, and secondly, probably one of my um, more intriguing conversations was with Moti, the airport guy. I think that conversation, I was just sitting there in awe, seeing, where he came from and where he is now, and the purpose and mission behind him, showing the behind the scenes of Heathrow Airport, and
mm,
how he even got through it, the journey that took, the
yeah,
nose that he's had, and the perseverance that he then took on after. And now he's so motivational, so impactful for people around his age and younger, in aspiring to become who they really want to be, no matter what their background or their status or whatever that may be. So that conversation resonated with me a lot in
yeah,
terms of purpose, in terms of growth.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, I was just sat there, and I'm just like, this is amazing. If anyone's having a bad day, they need to listen to that conversation, because I was so inspired and so fueled by the
Mm,
conversation and his strategies in overcoming barriers and
mm.
challenges. It was just amazing. And then hearing all about the cool stuff he does at the airport that we don't see on a day to day. I
No.
still follow him on social media, so I'm just like, when I visit it, Heathrow, I hope I get a special tour. I hope you're listening, Moti.
I mean, what else are these great connections for if not to get these perks along the way, right? But I think I
So
agree
yeah.
with you. Yeah, they were powerful conversations. I think, like you
Mm,
said, if I wasn't even thinking of that conversation for us to think about the ones that stood out for me, but you're absolutely right. I think the conversation between Deborah and Natasha, the two sisters who looked
mhm,
so comparatively different, one literally had very white appearance, very fair skin, bright green eyes and kind of blondish hair, and the other
Mm.
who looked very dark, potentially darker than I am, with straight
Mm.
black hair. And to listen to like what daily life is like in an environment where firstly racism is legalized, how
Mm.
people's value was determined by that. We can talk about how the media might do that, or how society has
Yeah.
done that over time, coming with the curtails of colonial
Yeah.
kind of issues that we talk really commonly here about in the UK
Mm.
now, or rather there's more of a platform, people more comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah.
Listening to actually the depths of what they had to experience amongst own family members, this is a
Mm.
different level. And the psychological impact of that, which I
Yeah.
don't think we've really gone into so much yet, and I'm sure
Mm.
we'll probably develop further conversations about this as things go on here at Cohesia
Yeah.
Connect, because people don't realize the psychological impact of what that does to a person's individuality,
Mm.
their sense of identity, their
Yeah.
sense of purpose,
Mm.
a sense of actually where can I go in life, finding a place. And as human beings, we know that we're not islands. We also know that we
Mm.
need people. It's just part of, if we look
Yeah.
at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there's some
Mm.
fundamental things there. These issues, how they impact these basic needs within individuals who are suffering or on the other side of marginalization, is a hot,
Yeah.
it blew my mind having to consider that in that conversation. They're
Yeah.
not binary things that are external or far removed. This is really
Mm-hmm.
what's happening internally for people, and how those experiences when they've been growing up in environments where that's a very extreme example, but I imagine there are many
Mm.
different stories all over the world that have their own extremes that are different to what we experience here in the UK when it comes to issues of discussing race. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't think we can ever become comfortable thinking that we can put these issues in a box and think that we've
No.
considered all of
Dealt
the
with
complications
them.
that are going into it. um,
Mm.
and it really, I think, for me, I think it drives more about the purpose of what we're doing in terms of making sure that
100%.
we are doing our bit with not just changing the narrative, but keeping it alive in a way that is open
Mm.
to, you need to consider it's not just going to be this one way, because I think that's when people get into the fatigue stage, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
um,
Because they feel like they've done everything that they needed to do and nothing's happening, and so you go through this phase of diversity fatigue. And I think that's where perhaps that is where the momentum needs to kick in, really, in
yeah,
terms of really making change and advocating for change, or doing something different. If it's not working that way, try something different, and we continue to
yeah,
evolve and change our strategy, because as we know, within society, things transform, things change.
right,
We have to
evolve,
keep up with
yeah,
that and evolve, and we have to keep up with that. We can't, still put the same methods that we've done 10 years ago and expect it to
yeah,
work now.
yeah,
So it's all about understanding the context, the environment, and how things are being transformed on a day-to-day basis. Um, and I think that's how we get to a place of sustainable change and overcome diversity fatigue, by
mm,
finding new ways and tackling new challenges, or even old challenges, with a new perspective. So,
yeah, for
but yeah,
sure.
going back to you, what were your favorite conversations? Or one
I mean,
favorite? I don't
you
know.
struck gold with that first one. Like, you set the bar quite high, but like you said, I think every single conversation that we've had a chance to engage with has been a huge privilege, because I think I haven't come from one thinking I've not learned something really important, or my mindset has
Mm,
not been shifted in some way. And I think every single one of those conversations has impacted me in that way, in some shape or form.
mhm,
But I
mhm,
think if there have been some very defining kind of what standout episodes, I would
mhm,
say for me, discussing Barnaby Winter, the brown bucket guy,
mm,
and literally he took allyship to a whole different level for me as
mm,
to what that could look like, supporting um, a business partner who comes from Afro-Caribbean background, and really emphasizing giving room and space for her to be mobilized in doing her
mm,
amazing thing that she knows that she's kind of skilled to do, but also he gave room
mm.
for realizing the impact of, it's not just
Yeah.
about this isolated thing of what she's capable of doing. She's having to do this in lieu of other mental health
Mm,
issues and challenges. And how many
mm,
times we because that's not something that's always on the surface, that's visible for us when we're thinking
mm,
about applying for jobs, or in career, or on the career path, or in business, or in the
mm,
marketplace, any shape or form. But actually, maybe we need to be doing that a lot more, and we need the allyship of others around who don't
yeah,
necessarily who have not necessarily had the same trauma experiences, but they have the
mm-hmm,
education and the empathy to try to create space for that
yeah,
in a way of understanding. And I think seeing that on display just within his life, what he has done
mm,
over, not just it wasn't a one and done thing either. He has dedicated
mm,
his life to creating space for this, realizing if I'm
yeah,
going to be fully committed to what I do in my work, I need to understand the people that I'm working alongside. And I
yeah,
think that really blew my mind, seeing as to what, for the first time, what allyship could look like in that way. And
mm,
what I love is the fact he's like, look, I'm no one overly special. I don't even have like a huge, you know, coming from a background where I've had like multicultural input or anything. It's like I grew up in the Cotswolds in a village my whole life. This is not something that was always there. So it's going to be easy for me to kind
yeah,
of transition into that space of allyship with communities that are very different to me. No, this is someone who
yeah,
said, I'm just going to turn up. Yeah, I'm just going to have
mm,
conversations. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. Show me
mm,
what it's like to be in your shoes one day, and then not only like turning up at helping her in times of really really great need. And I think that
yeah,
really blew my mind. And I think when you are encountering people like that, it automatically
mm,
puts the onus on the spotlight, and it makes you examine yourself. And I was just like, I
yeah,
thought I was a supportive person to people that are different to me, but
mm-hmm,
actually there are so many ways in which that could look like. And I think meeting Barnaby and engaging with that conversation really highlighted, actually, this has blown out my world of comprehension as to what that could be in such a
mm,
wonderful way. So
yeah,
I think as on the individual conversations that I've engaged with so much, I think that
mm-hmm,
really impacted me in a way that I didn't think I was expecting, but I was really
mm,
grateful and humbled to have had the opportunity to kind of engage with someone that was living the allyship walk and not talking about it. Because this is where I think,
yeah,
going back to what we're talking about, diversity fatigue, we've ticked the boxes. And I think the next conversation that I think really stood out for me, and I think this kind of ties together with what you said, there's diversity fatigue. We think we've ticked all the boxes. We think we've done all we can. We've had all the
mm-hmm,
conversations. And then it's about meeting people that are living it like Barnaby. But then going further,
yeah,
it's being introduced to someone like Dr. Tony Malone, who we also had recently on our
yeah,
platform, showing me that the way to do that is actually through genuine friendship. And
mm.
this blew me out the water even further about what we do. Because a lot of
Yeah,
we can set, there's research, isn't there? Like we were
yeah,
like, for people that don't know, Ivelka is doing her master's with regards to diversity and inclusion and cultural studies. Like, you are encountering research so
yeah,
much with regard to this, and we can stick to talking about words on black and white on a piece of paper, or we're in a
mm,
seminar room and we're discussing people's lives and discussing these elements and these nuances and these
mm-hmm,
genres and categories of what's happening with DNI as an overall bracket and banner.
mm, yeah,
But the reality is that, like, in order for us to really impact the change that we say that we're so passionate about moving forward with Cohesia Connect, is the genuine people behind it. And the only way to get there is to bridge those gaps through actual friendship and connection.
yeah,
So
yeah,
all that to say is, these conversations that I feel like that have really impacted me are the ones that continue to reiterate that in order for us to move forward, it's that genuine relationship and connection where our differences of identity, and backgrounds and
mm,
diversities and all these other things that make us distinctive, the
mm,
way in order to bridge the gaps that we can all function together and be
yeah,
useful to each other and be helpful to each other, not because
yeah,
we need something, and it doesn't have to be a contentious space, the
mhm,
whole us and them thing, and it doesn't have to be
yeah,
like that. It's going to be through genuine friendship. Are we actually really going to care about this person's well? Like, can I
mm,
turn up for you just because I care about you, not because we're not
yeah,
quite in the same boxes? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
I feel
No,
like I've said a lot there.
totally.
Help me out.
No, I think, yeah, I think I totally agree. And I really enjoyed listening to their conversations and hearing their thoughts and their own journey, navigating that and how they've approached it in that sense as
Yeah,
well. Um, with Dr. Tony Malone, the friendship thing is it might seem as if it's something small that we do all the time, but
huge
I
impact.
don't think we know the impact that it really
Yeah,
can have
yeah,
in advocating for change and being that ally from Barnaby and really getting to know people and understanding that, you know, there are challenges that we all face.
Yeah.
It's not equal, and there needs to be a way in which we can do equity and have
Mm,
equity within
right.
all of that, and only through understanding, acknowledgement, um, friendship, we can do that, and even acceptance. And it's not acceptance to be I need to be right, or whatever it is. It's more of
Yeah.
accepting someone as who they are, their
Yeah.
authentic selves. So I genuinely think those conversations, they might seem quite basic. Oh yeah, we do that all the time, you know that.
Mm,
The impact it really has once it's done, or once it's approached in the right way, that's going to initiate change.
yeah.
Is going to be so much more beneficial. And I was on LinkedIn even earlier today, and I saw one of my um, colleagues from a different kind of arena, and she was talking about, she was advocating for change, and she was talking about someone from the LGBTQ community and meeting friends who are part of that community, and they were telling her about the struggles and the challenges they have.
Mm,
And she spoke to this to another friend, and the friend said, "Why do you always have to raise the flag?" And it's just like, because there are people out there who are being hurt, who are being ridiculed, discriminated against because of who they are. And of course, as an ally, I want to be able to advocate for change and ensure that they don't feel like they're in a space or an environmental world that is not conducive to them, or to what they want to do in life or anything like that. And I found it quite, I did comment on it because I thought it was just like, there are some people out there who genuinely don't believe that we should be advocating for others, and it's more of a them us versus them kind of mentality. And that's what these conversations that we've had, and we will continue to have with the likes of Barnaby and um Dr. Tony Malone, and how do we break those barriers down, because it's not an us versus them, it's, you know, us together and working
mm,
cohesively
mm, mm,
as one
mm.
community. So yeah, it's very interesting, and I think I really look forward to the other conversations that are upcoming and the conversations to come in the future. And
Yeah.
I think overall, all of the conversations that we've had on this podcast has been so impactful, so what's the word? I genuinely feel that it's definitely given, or perhaps even help people to kind of navigate certain issues or learn something new. I've had people who come to me and say, "This podcast was amazing. I didn't know this, or I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I really like that speaker." And for me, that's really, really humbling. And
Mm,
it's good to know that we have inspired or empowered or even educated someone to think differently or do something differently,
mm.
or perhaps even make a change on their own.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It's and I think it's worth it. I think even for
mm,
that, if we've given or created an opportunity for someone to think in a different way about an issue that's kind of covered in some of the topics we have
mm,
explored on the platform, is really encouraging to hear. And this is what it's for. You know, this is what
yeah.
it's for.
Well,
It's
selfishly, it's also for us.
but what
We
I'm talking
do
about
enjoy these
is that it's
conversations.
amplifying. These are real life stories.
Yeah.
We're not talking about it from a textbook, and we're not talking
No.
about it from something that's far removed and doesn't
Mm,
impact everybody somehow. But because
mm,
it's humans and because of human complexity, that will always matter. That will always be
yeah.
something that we need to be turning up for, because if it's not them, then it's going to be us. And if
Mm,
it's not us,
mm,
then, you know, and if it's not now, then when? I know that's a very
yeah.
old Jewish proverb, but like, that's so true. It's really so
Yeah.
true. Um,
So
I'm excited to
yeah,
see
there's
how those things develop. But there's some
me
other
too.
exciting things happening. I think we need to talk about where it is that our co-founder and managing director of Cohesia Connect will be later this year and what she will be doing. Take it away, Alba.
Well,
Well,
we've been working on stuff.
yes, we have.
We've been working on stuff, but yes. So for those of you that are not aware, I actually moved to the UK about it's coming up to 11 years ago now. I'm originally from a tiny little island called Anguilla in the Caribbean, West Indian to the bone. And since I left, I haven't returned, and not even to visit. So it's been a confusing journey, but it's also been quite amazing at the same time. And even though there are times whereby I really wanted to go back home to visit my family, see my friends, it just seemed like the timing wasn't right. Everything happened. It was barrier after barrier. Every year, it was just like, oh, it's not going to happen this year. It's not going to happen this year. So it just felt like a compounding effect of when am I ever going to get the chance to go home until now. So I am actually going back in August, and I'll be spending the month in August on my island. And whilst I'm there, we have put together an event which I am so excited to host, and put together, and working with some of the governmental bodies back home to make this event a success, especially the Department of Youth and Culture. So we are launching, or about to host and put together, a youth conference that's taking place mid-August. And it's all about empowerment. Specifically, we have key areas in terms of mental health, mindset and growth, personal development, and employability, which my expertise from what I've learned over the years. So yeah, it's going to be a 2-day conference workshop event where we're inviting the young people of Anguilla to come along, have fun, learn something new, engage with people that they perhaps don't engage with on a day-to-day basis. I know the island is small, but we still it's conducive
the reach
to
is far. The reach is very far.
It is. So we just bringing everyone together to learn something. And for me, this was something that has been in my heart and I really wanted to do. And the fact that I now have the opportunity to do it, but more so have the expertise and the knowledge that I can give back to my home country, it feels like such a privilege. So I've done a lot of growing over the years. I've done a lot of growth emotionally as well. I've grown as a person, not just career-wise. But throughout all of that growth, I think now is the time that I can afford to give back, because I actually have something to give. And it's, for me, I'm really excited. So yeah, 2-day conference in Anguilla, inviting all the young people. More details will be shared in the coming days. We have a great lineup of speakers who will be attending. We'll have refreshments, there'll be food, there will be giveaways that will be happening as well. And it's just going to be such a good atmosphere. And don't forget, there will be music, because
I was going to say, I mean, if we're going to be there, please tell me there's some music.
There will be some music. So it's going to be a wonderful event. And what a time it is to do it when the young people are off from school. There's a lot of youth activities happening as well. It's just going to have such a great vibe about it. And I hope that we inspire at least one or two people to think beyond, for in terms of their
I
capability,
think
and
you need to dream
reach for
bigger,
the stars.
inspiring them all, because this random lady is coming back to Anguilla to host this event. And it's been such a privilege that, and I think, again, this goes to connections. The connections that we have through genuine, relationship has really opened the opportunity here for what's going to be taking place in Anguilla. And again, this really, it bullseyes all of our kind of like objectives and our purpose and the impact that we have as values here at Cohesia Connect. And to see that we've got an opportunity to do that. This is miles away, miles and miles away from England.
We're going international.
Why not? Yeah. And I think this is what's so important. And I think for anybody that comes across this conversation, if you think that your reach is like, where do I start? It's actually to look inwardly, is to look, what do I have in my hand already? And literally just knock on the doors in terms of, look, I'm here to give something. And this is what we're here to do. Genuinely, we're here to impart or to give something, give back. How can we add value to what's happening in society and community? Because we believe in sustainable change. And the way to do that is actually to serve communities first. And that's been a big driver of what we are. So this opportunity coming our way has just been, it's just been incredible. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of like just how much it is, because it takes tenacity to say to the Department of Education and Youth and Culture of an entire nation, say, hi, I'd like to come in and do something. And just the support has been incredible. And I think what they've seen as someone who wants to genuinely give back in a way. And I think don't underestimate that capacity. If you really have got something to give and share, and you're going to build a society or build the next generation, like do what you can. You'll be surprised how many people are waiting and hoping for that. And you might be the person holding the keys for that as well.
Who knows? But I think it's also important to note as well that a lot of young people in Anguilla do move to the UK. And I think maybe it's just me, but there is certainly a culture shock that you experience from moving from such a tiny island to, yes, England is tiny, but to a whole new world.
Isn't there something like 15,000 people on the entire island? So like, I think relatively that's not even a comparison to the UK's islands kind of life.
So I think there is kind of food for thought in terms of giving them the reality of what that could look like for them and how it is, because it's not an easy journey, uprooting your whole livelihood and moving, across the world to somewhere different. But for me, I think it's important to give them my perspective, I think, and share with them my own journey in terms of how I've made it, in terms of what worked well and what didn't. And for me personally, I don't think, maybe this is me being biased or anything, I'm being completely honest, but I don't think there is, when you come from such a tiny island, you feel like you don't know where your place is, because everything else seems bigger when you move out of it. And it's so hard to kind of come into a different country and make a way for yourself. And I definitely felt and doubted myself throughout the whole school, uni, in terms of, there were people that share the same background as me, but have lived here all of their life. And they got opportunities that perhaps I never got. And coming to the UK at I was in my mid-teens at the time, it's, you feel a little bit like you've taken a step back, and you have to start all over again. So I think for me, it's, as much as I love what I do here in the UK, especially with Cohesia Connect, I feel that it's very important for me to go back home and, give back to my community and where it all started. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am today. So yeah, I'm just really excited. So look out for that. That will be on our social soon. There will be videos and stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited to kind of announce that and share that with our audience.
Incredible. I'm so happy. I think, again, not to give too much away, there's lots of other up and coming projects as well. So stay tuned. Things that really kind of align with our values. Things
Do
that
you want to give them a little bit of a sneak peek?
I think the best person to do that would be you, but for me personally, are on the reserve side in terms of hoping to see kind of some written works kind of, get into kind of completion, and hopefully release by hopefully in the next couple of months would be really, really good. I know we've got other projects in the pipeline, which I'm reluctant to speak about, but I'm so excited about it because I think this is really going to put into motion for the greater impact opportunity with kind of putting in something that we're going to be able to share on a much wider scale and have more accessibility to helping more people in the workplace that care about these values, care about their workers, care about not just sustainable change, but growth. What can we do with actually, maximizing all of the potential of the great kind of assets we have, which assets are really the people, not just what they produce. And if we can, what we're trying to do with what we're trying to build together in this next project really kind of leans towards that. What can we do to get the best out of people? And I'm excited about it. I don't want to say any more without giving anything more, but I think that's my best way to describe it. Just to thank you to everybody that's just been with us on the journey consistently. Keep us in your thoughts, and just keep just staying attuned, because we can't wait to share it with you. We really can't.
I feel like now we are definitely getting to a routine of things. We're getting used to these projects, and I think after one project completes, it's just like, oh my gosh, there's the next best thing, or the next big thing, and it's just constantly evolving. And I am so proud of where we are and how far we've come and the opportunities that we've had. And one thing that we didn't even talk about, but it happened quite early on in the year, was having opportunities to visit schools and actually speak to young people, and the opportunities to do that. And I think, for some people might feel like, oh my gosh, I know at times, and I'm going to be honest and vulnerable here, and Carla would know, like, are we even making progress? Like, I think like we've slowed down, like what's happening? And then all of a sudden things shift, and then stuff keeps flowing through. And it's been a journey, but it took that small seed and it's starting to grow and blossom. And honestly, I couldn't have done it with any better person. So thank you. I don't know. Just talking to myself here. But I don't think I could have done it without the support of you as my business partner, confidant, friend. I think building a business is hard. And, we hear it all the time. And now we feel it. It is hard. So to have someone like yourself to even pick me up when I think, Carla, I don't know what's happening. Like,
I don't know either.
We sometimes have a panic moment, people, but it's fine. We get there in the end. But it's definitely rewarding to do it with someone. And like you rightly said, no one's an island, and growing a business certainly isn't an island. We work really hard to bring you the best and of everything that we do. And as we've said, a lot of the stuff that we do is quite purpose driven, and we don't take it lightly in terms of the things that we do. So watch out. Cohesia Connect is coming up. She's growing, she's blossoming, she's evolving. And great things to come. Any last minute thoughts?
Perfect way to end. And I concur with all that you said. And I think looking at what Cohesia Connect is becoming, and I know we've spoken about the terminology already, but isn't it so true? Things that really start from seeds. Seeds are so small, but they've got capacity to like grow forests. And I think I know that we started as a seed, and when it's in this kind of growing, pushing through dirt and grime and soil to kind of rise to the surface to reach, the potential it has, is no easy feat. But I wouldn't exchange that process for anything. And I'm sure that anybody that comes across this conversation now or at a later point, hopefully be encouraged by that. If you feel that that's what it feels like for you, you're not alone. Please let us know. Like, we need to shout out, let's connect and talk about it, because like we said, we're not islands. And even if you're doing something in a completely different kind of field than we are, this element doesn't change, because it's people trying to build stuff, and everything has a seed, and in that seed is actually really powerful because of its potential. But we need each other to have it realized. We need, like Ivelka and I said, we're blessed enough to have another person on this journey together in the same boat. So when one of us is not feeling great, one of us can water the seed in the other person to allow that to grow for the next, to be ready, to be mobilized. When I'm tired, somebody else can be there just to help push me or carry me over the next line. And this is what the whole idea about connecting and through conversations, connecting with each other is really all about. So I'm going to end on that note because I think
thank you.
it is exciting.
It is.
But yeah, like just keep like watching Cohesia Connect grow and connecting conversations grow, and we're just so grateful for the community that wants to grow with us.
Certainly. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in, listening to our chit chat and our reflections, what we've gotten up to, what we're doing, what we're about to do. So stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. Thank you all.